Starting in mid-August and lasting all the way through October, millions and millions of birds fly over Colorado in the middle of the night. Our songbirds, shorebirds, and yes, even our raptors that we've grown accustomed to seeing throughout the summer during this time begin their long journeys back south to their wintering territories. In this video, I head to two of Colorado's hottest spots to witness this fall migration in action as we say farewell to our feathered friends of the summer and wish them safe travels on their journey south. It's the fall migration of 2024. Let's get in the field. On the morning of September 8th, I made my first migration outing with a DFO trip to the birdie little town of Louviers, which if you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know that I have put Louviers as one of Colorado's best top secret birding spots. I was excited that morning, not only because I was going back to Louviers, but because I had seen that there were almost 2.5 million birds that had flown over Colorado the night before. I use a great tracking website called birdcast.info, and as you can see here on this dashboard, I'd pulled up the night before to see all of the different activity. And here is that panel from the birdcast.info website. I have filtered for Douglas County, and I'd filtered down specifically the night before the outing, so that was September 7th. At the very top, you can see 85,400 species flew over Douglas County the night before, and then on the right, it even shows you sort of the species you would expect to see around this time frame during migration. Our first bird of the day was right in the parking lot with this Say's phoebe, which is a very common bird to see around Colorado in the summer, and they don't go too far for migration, usually going down to the southern United States and into Mexico. Also leaving us for the winter soon will be these lesser goldfinches. They will head back south to their non-breeding grounds, which can be found in California, Texas, and also down into Mexico. I love photographing them, especially these males with the black hood. Contrast really nice with the yellow. They make for some really great photographs. We continued our walk around town, and it was very birdy, lots of bird activity happening, but we hadn't really seen anything too out of the ordinary or rare. But as we walked down this one trail, that quickly changed. We had been seeing a bunch of western kingbirds, which is not that unusual, but then someone saw at the top of this tree and called out the eastern kingbird, which is unusual. And the eastern kingbird will migrate pretty far south down into Central America, even into Ecuador and Colombia of South America. We joked that maybe I would end up seeing one again in January when I go to Ecuador. Juvenile broad-tailed hummingbirds will stick around a little bit later than the adults, but then they too migrate down south into southern Mexico and Central America. The last bird of interest that we saw on this trip was in the DuPont open space. It was seeing both a male and female hairy woodpecker, which are not migrants per se. They can be here all year round, but still always cool to see them. The next outing I was heading out for the migration was on September 23rd, heading to the iconic Chico Basin Ranch. So again, I did the same thing where I went to the birdcast.info website and looked at what had happened the night before. And as you can see now, later in September, our numbers have gone way up. Again, this is specifically filtered to El Paso County. 664,000 birds crossed El Paso alone the night before. And again, I looked over here on the right side to see what we could expect. And western wood peewees, western kingbirds, Wilson's warblers, again, you can see they really peak up here in September and October as they migrate through. And yeah, it looked like a lot of great species to keep our eyes out for. And the way Chico Basin Ranch operates now for birders has changed pretty drastically over the past year. I'll get to more of the specifics at the end of the video, kind of what I think about that. But we had to be down at Chico by 7 a.m., so it required a very early morning commute. Our first stop to Chico was to the banding stations, which is run during migration by the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies, and it didn't take long to see our first catch. And once the bird is caught in the net, it is quickly scooped up and taken back to the banding station, where they perform a bunch of different measurements. They will measure the fat content on the bird, they will measure wingspan, tail span, they'll measure the beak, and they will check the molting of the feathers to see what its age is. And then it'll be banded and released. It is a very quick process. We saw it here with this lesser goldfinch. The bird was gone within a minute after being banded. It was a really, really cool process to see if you've never seen that kind of thing before. We birded right around the banding area. It's a great wooded area. First thing we saw was this tree full of yellow-rumped warblers. And then I caught a glimpse of another warbler very quickly, which may have been a Virginia's warbler. This is the only look I got at it. It was just for a few seconds. And boy, are these guys hard to film. The Wilson's warbler, very common here in Colorado in September and October through migration. They head south for the winter. As you can see, their breeding ground is all the way up north in Alaska, so a pretty long trek for these guys. This tree full of sage thrashers was awesome, and these guys won't go too far from Colorado. They will go down to the southern United States and into parts of Mexico for their non-breeding ground. And then way out on top of one of the choyas, someone spotted a chunky gray bird, and after scoping in, it was a canyon towhee, which is pretty uncommon for this area. In fact, if you look at the range map, they barely dip into southern Colorado, so it was really cool to see one. As we were wrapping up at this first location, heading down this last trail, I decided to hang back because I thought I saw something up in a tree that looked interesting to me, and then when I photographed this guy and took this video clip, I thought it was probably just another Wilson's warbler. It was a very quick look, so I didn't really think much about it, but then I got home and realized this was actually a Cassin's vireo, my first rare spotting of the day. We then moved on to the second location within Chico Basin Ranch, sort of known as headquarters. And you can see here these Wilson warblers were still around and still being a pain in the you-know-what to try to get video of. But then we got another uncommon sighting with this dusky flycatcher.
Saw the snag on the right of the yellow-green bush. Western wood pewee.
After the dusky, we then saw this western wood pewee, a very similar flycatcher, and you can see on the map here they will travel for the winter pretty far south down into Central America and parts of Southern America.
Yeah, just one left kick. Boom.
Chico Basin Ranch is a real working ranch. It's not just a name, and it's not uncommon while birding to come across open range cattle, and in this case, some horses.
A lot of sparrows moving over there.
One person in our group called out a raptor flying overhead, so we all looked up and then noticed it wasn't one raptor, but it was more like a group of 20 plus. They were way up high, riding the thermals together, and we finally got a good look and saw a very interesting and unique tail pattern. These were broad-winged hawks. Again, there were about 20 of them, all migrating south. It was a really cool sighting. We then made our way over to our third location, but didn't have much time left, so it ended up being more of a lunch stop. This is Rose's Pond. But even though that was technically the last stop of the trip, we did notice something interesting on the way out. And then finally, to wrap the trip up, we stopped at the Hanover Fire Station, where we got a great look at this rock wren. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. And also a good look at some Cassin's Kingbirds in the tree here. It was an awesome way to end a great trip. All right, well, that is my fall migration video for 2024. Right off the bat, I will say there is one outing missing from this video. I have just been super busy with work lately, so there was a third destination that I was trying to get out to. That was Pruitt Reservoir, which is way up I-76, just before Sterling. A great spot for fall migration, lots of shorebirds, lots of just everything up there. And I had meant to get up there on my own, but I just ran out of time and just have been too busy. So just the two outings in the video. And of course, the first one was the triumphant return to Louviers, which I have featured in other videos before. And yeah, it was pretty good. And that was during that, that was that first weekend of September. So maybe a little bit early in the migration, but I thought we still saw some really good stuff. The Eastern Kingbird, I think, on that outing was the highlight for me. And then, of course, going to Chico Basin Ranch. That was just about a week ago here at the end of September. And yeah, that ended up being really, really good too. That was a really fun day. That also was a DFO outing through Aiken Audubon in order to get into Chico Basin Ranch. It's a little bit different process than what most people are used to here. I will go over that in just a second. So yeah, I just wanted to also mention that fall migration, as far as timing wise, so I'm recording this on October 1st. It is still ongoing. The fall migration is a little bit wider range of dates because it's not as kind of focused as the spring migration is, because spring migration, birds are returning from the south up to their breeding grounds. So it's more on a sort of schedule where it's they're trying to get in place for breeding. So that's why the spring migration is a little bit more of a confined time period, where the fall migration is a little bit, it's a little wider lane, on the highway. So fall migration is still ongoing. It will go through October. And so there's plenty of time to still get out there and go see things if you still want to get out to see stuff for fall migration. So Chico Basin Ranch. Well, so like I said in the video, I would go over here at the end. There's been some changes. I'm going to try to give the quickest, just here's the new rules and here's what happened story as I can. So the current family that's there leasing it right now has been leasing it for a while, and they are very pro-birder. They are very good stewards of the land, I guess is the way to put it. And they've always been open to birders coming and doing birding on their property whenever they want. You could go in the afternoon, you could go in the morning, you could go on a weekday, a weekend, didn't matter. That has now changed because the lease is up, and the current family that's there wanted to renew, but another company or family, I guess, kind of came in and said, well, we're interested and we'll pay a bunch more money. So there's a new leasee coming in starting for 2025. And so it's not to say that the new people are anti-birding, but they definitely want to put more sort of rules in place. It's not going to be just free for all anymore. So the good news, you'll still be able to go to Chico Basin Ranch. The bad news is it's a little bit more constricted, and there's some rules now in place. So first off, it will only be open to birding in the spring migration and the fall migration. So there's a very set dates now, and the time is from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., and there's up to 20 people per day. So in order to go, you need to get reservations and buy a ticket online. So I sort of think of it, it's sort of like the national parks, right? We used to always be able to just go to Rocky Mountain National Park on a whim and, hey, let's go up to Rocky Mountain National Park today. But now that you can't do that anymore. You have to actually plan out and get a reservation. So I'm thinking of it, it's the same way now for Chico Basin Ranch. So you can still go. I think you'll still be able to go down there and enjoy yourself. But you're just going to have to plan it out a little bit more. And it's only going to be during those certain windows in the year. So the trips down there just sort of on a whim, it's not going to happen anymore. And I will say, being there on that day, it was a weekday, so not very crowded. It was a group of us. There was 12 of us. And so there could have been up to 8 other people. I think we only ended up seeing maybe a few other people. I definitely don't think there were 20 people there that day. So I think if you pick the right day and you go down there, it's not going to be too crowded, and it wouldn't be too hard to get a ticket for it. When I first heard about these changes, I admit I was sort of a doomer about the whole thing. I was like, oh, it's over. We'll never get to go there again. And that's not true. It will just take a little bit more planning ahead. So that's what I have to say about Chico Basin Ranch. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, and it's definitely an inconvenience, but I think it's something that people can work around. So, but yeah, so that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I mean, maybe I'll still be able to get up to Pruitt here at some point before the migration is over. I'd like to do that, but I've got the next video coming up is going to be something that's going to be a pretty lighthearted, fun video. Something probably not expected, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And then, yeah, Bighorn Rut also coming up here towards the end of October, so I'm thinking about that. And got another kind of surprise video, I think, coming up too. So again, won't spoil it, but I think that's all I got for you guys. So again, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. See you later. Bye.